consenting to that. And I have pasted all the tickets on the chat box. And make sure you mute your microphone always unless you are speaking. And you can give the name of the organization after your name, like UKMSW or CAPS if you want. And please leave the camera on unless you have some emergency or urgent thing. And we have already received some questions, but if you have any questions to today's speakers, please raise your hand or you can put your question in the chat box. And hope you enjoy the day. Thank you. Over to you, Binu.
Thank you, Roxy. I would like to invite our chairperson, Mr. Sibi Thomas, for the welcome speech and presidential address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to everyone who present here to celebrate World Social Work Day. This year's theme of social work is Ubuntu. I am because we are strengthening social solidarity and global connectedness. Having solidarity with others does not mean simply feeling vague compassion and misfortune of others. It is a firm determination to commit oneself to working to improve our own society. God has created all human beings equal in rights, duties, and dignity, and has called them to live together as brothers and sisters. We are members of a global family. Hi, my name is Sibi, the chairperson of UKMSW Forum. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of UKMSW in the virtual gathering to celebrate World Social Work Day celebration. Before we proceed, let me give you all a glimpse of UKMSW Forum and its intended purpose. This is a professional forum of qualified social workers hailing from Kerala, south part of India, who are currently registered or processed to register with Social Work England and continue to practice in the UK as social workers. We are scattered in England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. We are from different local authorities, different NHS trust, and different specialization in children and adult. As it is a title protected field, the purpose of the forum to promote good social work practice and celebrate the academic, career, and practice achievement of the members. The forum will function as a path to its members to exchange skills, knowledge, and experience with other colleagues and partner agencies. It is my immense honor to welcome our distinguished chief guest, Lord William Herbert Laming, who is a member of House of Lords, an independent life peer, and most of all, a great social worker. Lord Laming will be giving a speech about his social work career, his finding from the important inquiries. His brilliant professionalism, hard work, and passion for humanity is a blessing for every children and families in our country. We also have wonderful speakers from British Association of Social Workers, Dr. David Jones and Dr. Mrs. Narendra Sidhu. Dr. David Jones is a recognizable registered social worker who got extensive experience in social work practice within the UK and globally. Mr. Sidhu is the chairperson of British Association of Social Workers Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Group. Both will deliver their speech and interact with our members. Last but not least, Dr. Raip Varghese, chairperson of Kerala Association of Professional Social Workers, will give a felicitation speech for our lovely members. We could not succeed this virtual event without the hard work and dedication of our members and the executive committees who spent hours of interaction, worked tirelessly to make today a reality. I hope today's Social Work Day celebrations inspires ideas and discussions around the way that we can make our social work career cherish and blossoms and show our passion to our profession. We are confident that our migration brings an opportunity for enrichment and the integral human development for the citizens of our country. We believe that the grand essential for happiness in the life are something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. Good luck to all, and thank you all once again to join us this event.
Thank you, Sibi, for the wonderful note. Now I would like to invite Mr. Thomas Joseph, our PRO, to proudly introduce our chief guest, Lord Herbert Lemming.
Thank you, Vinu. I feel very honored to introduce Lord Herbert Lemming. William Herbert Lemming is a British social worker and a member of the House of Lords. Lord Lemming is an independent life peer. He served as the convener of the crossbench peers from 2011 to 2015 and the chairman of the committees from 2015 to 2016. He was a psychiatric social worker by profession, who later served as the Director of Social Services in Hertfordshire, Chief Inspector of Social Services Inspectorate, and President of Association of Directors of Social Services. He was made the Commander of the Order of the British Empire and an independent life peer in 1998. He was given the prestigious honor, the Doctor of Science by the University of Durham. He was asked to lead on famous inquiries, including the Harold Shipman inquiry, which was later changed into a public inquiry following the judicial review, and Lord Lemming was replaced with Dame Janet Smith. He also led Victoria Climpy inquiry, which led to various reforms in children's services, including the introduction of Every Child Matters program and the Children Act 2004. He also led an investigation to British social services on a national basis following the death of baby P. There is a lot more to say about Lord Lemming, but I cut short due to the time. We are really fortunate to have a person of his stature and knowledge to be the main speaker and chief guest on this World Social Work Day celebrations. On behalf of all the UKMSW members, I welcome Lord Lemming to address us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Thomas. I'm very grateful to you for not only your very kind invitation. I should say, ladies and gentlemen, that if I say anything useful this morning, credit belongs to Thomas for persuading me to take on this task. But I'm delighted to be with you. And it's a lovely way to celebrate World Social Work Day. Sadly, we're not able to do it in person. I would much prefer to be in the same room as you, and so I could look into your eyes and enjoy your nice smiles. But it's lovely to be with you. I should say that I've had the pleasure of teaching, I suppose I could call it that, in a number of countries, and the issues that have come up in the aftermath of what I've had to say strike me as being similar across all of the countries that I've been to. And so I think that in celebrating World Social Work Day, we know that we are talking about issues that go well beyond the shores of this country, even well beyond the shores of India. I have been to India, but sadly, I should confess, I have not been to Kerala. But people tell me that Kerala is absolutely beautiful, and I'm readily accept that. Of course, I well realize that at my age, I'm a very long way from the experience that you have in your daily work. In fact, already I can see that all of you have different colors hair from the hair that I have, so that you can see that what I mean, what I'm saying has some substance about it. So I will try to be brief, because I'd love to hear from you and love to learn from your experience in the social care services. But the kind invitation that I received from Thomas made me think about the messages that I discovered were of fundamental importance in my career, and the things that I think are the foundation of good practice, almost irrespective what kind of social work you are undertaking. So I hope it might help if I share a few of my thoughts on what I think are the essential ingredients to good practice. And I hope that you will not find it boring. I promise I will try to be brief. But they are, in my view, the building blocks of good practice. And when I look back upon the things that I have failed in or have not worked, I think that I can identify my neglect of some of the things that I'm going to say over the next few minutes. In some ways, they are elementary, and I hope you won't find them boring. But in other ways, they introduce a discipline that we must all adhere to in every aspect of the work that we undertake. And I want to highlight these matters under four main headings. The first heading is legislation and humility. The second one is purposeful curiosity. The third is using our senses. And the fourth is developing our analytic skills. And I'll say something briefly about those four things. Because starting at the beginning, we in social services are usually meeting our fellow citizens in what for them is a time of crisis, or certainly a time of challenge in their lives. So we have both the opportunity and the privilege to enter into their personal lives at a time when they are usually feeling at their most vulnerable. Now, clearly, we enter into their personal lives in these circumstances, not as a personal friend, nor, frankly, as a wizard that will enable us to remove all of their difficulties and their problems. On the contrary, from the outset, we need to be honest and open with them about the nature of the relationship and about the special and very distinctive responsibilities that we carry in our roles. The reality is that we operate not under our own powers, as it were. We operate under the law of the land, because it is the Children's Acts, the Mental Health Acts, the Disability Acts, the Welfare Acts, the NHS Acts, or whatever, that actually gives us our role and our responsibilities. This legislation, whichever we're operating under, is our remit, our authority, and our responsibilities. So it is essential that we become well-versed in whatever piece of legislation we're operating under, and well-versed with the practice guidance that is given with that legislation. In other words, we are not a law unto ourselves. We don't enter into other people's lives as if we are a law unto ourselves. We enter into other people's lives on behalf of the state and on the basis of the legislation under which we're operating. So this legislation is of such immense importance that it is absolutely essential that we become familiar with it. Now, more than the legislation, we have other qualities that we can bring into bear, not least being that very few of us will go through life without having to face conflict or crisis, either in ourselves or in our relationships, in the people that we love and the people that we care about. We all of us have periods of sadness and more. And so we can, before we even step anywhere, we can stop to pause and think what we would hope would be our experience if we were in that particularly challenging or sad situation. And it doesn't take much imagination for us to think about what are the qualities that we would hope to see demonstrated if we were in that sad, unhappy, or distressed position. Because we have all, I think, also experienced being subject of people who are trying to provide information or should be providing us information or providing us with whatever we need, who frankly have a rather careless attitude in these situations, and how upsetting and how frustrating it can be. So there are certain qualities that we know from our own experience that are terribly important when we are meeting somebody with special needs of one kind or another. And it is even more important when the state, and we are operating in one way or another on behalf of the state, when the state intervenes in the lives of other people. So what we have to do is to develop the ability to combine caring qualities with that of authority. And it is not straightforward to combine caring with the use of authorities, but we must do it. And we must not only do it, but we must do it from the very first point of contact, because the very first point of contact establishes from the beginning the nature of the relationship that we are having. In other words, just as we don't go to see a doctor to talk about last night's television program, well, I imagine not, so we don't go to meet a client to have casual chat. On the contrary, from the very outset, we need to create an atmosphere of confidence that we know what we're doing, we know what our role is, we know what our responsibilities are, and we are going to give this vulnerable person confidence that they're in safe hands. So the words, the expression, the manner in which we conduct ourselves from the very outset goes to define the nature and purpose of the relationship. And I think these are very proper skills that need to be developed. And we can't assume that we have those automatically. And we must also, in this relationship, from the very outset, demonstrate genuine humility. We have to be humble because we cannot know what it is like to be the other person. We cannot know what it is like to live their lives. We cannot know their relationships, their experiences, good and bad, their hopes, their fears, their sadnesses. So one of the things that we have to do from the outset is discipline ourselves not to make assumptions. Each person is unique in their own way, and we have to demonstrate to them that we recognize their uniqueness and their special qualities as a fellow human being. We cannot know what has been the things that have shaped their lives and resulted in their current sadness. Now, I recall with gratitude, and I say this most sincerely, I recall with gratitude the many, let me call them clients, the many clients that have taught me, I think sometimes more than I've helped them, that have taught me about life, that have taught me how to be a social worker. If we had time, I would have loved to have shared with you as an example. I would have paid tribute to a 16-year-old, almost illiterate young man who at the very beginning of my career, without him realizing it, taught me so much about life, because his life was very different from my life. And he taught me not only about life, but he taught me, without him realizing, how to be a social worker. And I think it is that humility, that need to recognize that everything, every contact, every day has got to be a learning experience. So knowing who we are, knowing what we are, enables us each day to learn from who other people are and what they are. So we must learn about them, and in doing that, we must show them respect. We must show them respect because they are a fellow human being, and we must accord to them the dignity that we recognize in them, however awful their situation or however dreadful the way that they have behaved. And I know that probably the biggest challenge of all is to retain the focus that we are here for them and not for ourselves, the focus that we have a job of work to do. It's so hard to retain a focus because we get distracted by thoughts about, what they will think of us. Am I saying the right things? Do they like me? What am I going to have for supper tonight? These are the things that we must resist. Retaining a focus is extremely difficult. So the law and humility are terribly important. The second factor is that we must learn how to sustain purposeful curiosity. And this is quite a challenge for us because it's very easy to slip into making instant judgments, instant decisions as we go along. In other words, we must cherish our ignorance. We must accept that the person that we are trying to help one way or the other, whatever our job is, will always know much more about themselves than we ever can. And I have, and I'm sure you share this with me, have experienced in different professions from time to time, professionals who behave as if they know best, even from the first opening of our mouths, the first words that we have spoken, and that we feel that have already reached sweeping generalizations. And not only that, but you, like me, will have read many case files, many case recordings that set out conclusions, but without any supporting evidence for those conclusions. I have read many case files that I have wondered what was the beginning, what was the middle, and why did we get to this end? Fortunately, I've seen many other case files that are wonderful examples of observation, analysis, and the exercise of logic. So keeping an open mind, combined with sharply focused questions, allows for a persuasive picture to begin to emerge. And it is the recognition that it is a journey. It is the beginning that we're laying the foundations. And no matter how long this journey goes, it will be a learning experience. And it is in retaining a sharp focus and not being diverted, that enables us to build up a picture on which we can actually have some confidence that we're getting a proper appreciation of what the issues are that we are addressing. Sadly, this requires discipline, it requires hard work, it requires a commitment that is very great. And I know it's from my own experience that it's more easily talked about than it is put into practice. But the third point I wanted to raise is the good news. This is the good news. Fortunately, we've all been given the benefits of having basic senses, and they can be of enormous help. In fact, I think our senses are really some of our more powerful tools. From the outset, we can use our powers of observation. How is this home? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? How are they reacting to me? How are they reacting to each other? Is this a home in which there are children? Does it seem like a child-friendly home? Where are the toys? How do people communicate with each other? Are they courteous to each other? Are they hostile to each other? Are they loving to each other? What are the emotions that are being expressed at this time? What am I smelling? And how do they focus their expression to me? What do they see as being the problem? Sometimes the problem is not about them in their view. The problem is about other people. The problem is about their circumstances. The problem is a whole range of things, but let's talk about anything except talk about me. And I think having the powers of observation readily exercised, always exercised, gives us a tremendous basis on which we can build up a proper picture. You know, I recall so many times when people have sought to divert my attention. People have sought to manipulate me. I remember one vivid example of going to a house to talk about a really, really important issue about the future it happened to be a child. It could have been anybody else, but it was a child. And the father insisted on keeping on the television at a very, very high volume. Now, what did that tell me about him, his attitude toward the child, his sense of responsibility or not? These are things that are of immense importance. So first of all, our powers of observation from the very start are so important. Our powers of noting what we see, of noting what we hear, of bringing into play analytic powers in this are so important. So that's the good news. That was the third point. The fourth point is also good news. It is the exercise of our intellectual skills. We must never underplay the privilege that we have of having the capacity not just to observe, but to record and to analyze. We can bring together different strands of information that we might get from other bodies, you know, the housing department, the health department, whatever it may be, and we can record and we can analyze and we can build up this essential picture. So putting together each of these strands of information and using our analytical skills, we can present then a well-rehearsed and coherent picture. Now, as you will have experienced, as I've experienced, I've read many case files where, frankly, it's just a stream of words. There is no structure, there's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end, other than some conclusions that are not based upon any detectable analytical skills. Now, what's clear about those case files is that they're not only no help to the organization, no help to the worker, but they're certainly no help to the client, because the client needs to, if they're going to be helped, needs to have a solid foundation, a basis on which they know that we've gone to the trouble to try to understand them, try to understand their circumstances, have considered the thing is in the round as much as we can, and have formed a conclusion that we can talk to them about. This is no secret business. This is us developing a picture which I've always hoped I could share with my client, and there would be absolutely no dispute. Now, I wanted then to be personal, if I may, as I head toward a conclusion, in that when I chaired the Victoria Climbié inquiry, it had quite a marked, in some ways, I would say, devastating impact upon me, because the evidence was, by any standards, shocking. And it reinforced my view that good practice cannot take place without our understanding the legislation, without our having a continuous curiosity, without our having the ability to record, and most of all, to have our ability to analyze and bring together a coherent picture. Because the simple fact is that with Victoria, this little lively, lovely, very happy 8-year-old child that was brought to this country, allegedly came from the Ivory Coast, allegedly for a better education, was actually never in school, never registered with a school. And nobody had the presence to ask why she wasn't in a school, or indeed, how did this lively 8-year-old spend her days? What happened to her during the days? Now, during the few months that she was alive in this country, she was known to no fewer than let's start again. She was known personally to no fewer than 4 social care departments, 3 housing departments, 2 separate specialist police child protection teams. In addition, she was admitted to 2 different hospitals because the accident and emergency staff suspected that she was being abused. And so we can begin to put together a picture. First of all, there was no shortage of resources that affected what happened to Victoria. Secondly, she was known to a very large number of staff, or a large number of staff had a passing contact with her life. And yet basic information was never sought, as I've said. How did she spend her days? Why, when she was admitted to hospitals because of her injuries, she came in the clothes that she was wearing. Her parents never brought any replacement clothes, never brought any toys. When she was on the ward with the nurses, she loved dancing with them. She loved music. She loved cuddles. When her parents came, she cowered in the corner. All of this was recorded in different places and at different times. And yet, despite the involvement of all of these different agencies, these different skills, none of it was ever brought together. So had somebody asked how she actually spent her days, they might have discovered that for long periods of the time, she was lying in a cold bath, bound hand and foot, and putting her mouth to a plate put beside her to get whatever food that she could. And when she died, the pathologist said it was the worst case he'd ever seen, and he identified 128 different injuries to her body. And yet, in the evidence to the Victoria Climbié inquiry, that whether it was the police, whether it was the nurses, whether it was the doctors, whether it was the social workers, etc., they all, time after time, said, of course, if I had known, I would have taken action. But actually, the facts were known. And when the picture that each of the different services contribute their evidence to the inquiry, it became clear that there was a huge amount of facts that were clear indicators that what was happening to Victoria was outrageous and absolutely awful. And when she was admitted to the third hospital because of suspected abuse, of which they were right, that very day, the local authority social care department was actually closing the file under no further action needed. And that illustrated and brought home to me how we can operate, if we're not careful, in parallel lines, making assumptions along the way, not assembling the facts or assembling a picture, and ignoring some basic issues that, had we stopped to use the kind of powers that I've tried to describe, we could have got a picture of what a day in the life of Victoria was like from a very early stage when she was in this country. So I feel very strongly about the importance of social work. I feel very strongly about the quality of social work that is being delivered up and down the country. And I feel very strongly about the value of people like you, and I thank you for what you do. Social care work is a wonderful career. It enables us to enter into the lives of others at this time, often of crisis and certainly of challenge. I know that it can be stressful, as it was quite often for me. I remember vividly a whole series of emotions when I was being a social worker. I know it can be upsetting at times. I used to get upset. I know it can be very tiring. But the good thing is, and this is the good thing is that the elements of good practice are there for us all to use and to benefit from for the help of other people. And secondly, just think of what we can add to the lives of other people, our fellow citizens, because good practice gives us competence and confidence. Good practice gives the user of services confidence in our competence. So the job is very demanding, but it is a wonderful career, because we're able in a critical time in lives people's lives, to offer care, support, and structure, to enable them to preserve their dignity and to realize that whatever their circumstances, they are held in respect. I thank you for all that you do. It's wonderful that you meet in this way and support each other and help each other and learn from each other. That's wonderful. And I realize I'm a long way from the job, but I hope some of this might have been interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lord Herbert Lemming, for the thought-provoking speech on the good practice that we should follow in order to succeed in our career. We couldn't ask for more. Thank you very much. Could I now request Mr. Sipi Sebastian, our treasurer, our executive members, Mrs. Sheena Luxon and Mr. Gibbon, to facilitate the Q&A section with Lord Herbert Lemming.
Dear Lord Lemming, thank you
Yes.
very much for your intellectually enkindling words of wisdom on social work and social work practice, especially emphasizing good practice in our area of work. Thank you very much for reminding us that we are not law, but we are acting on behalf of the state. Now, it's actually time for us to ask a few questions. I have received a few questions which I'll read. And following that, we would have time for everyone who are willing to ask questions. A couple of questions I received. This is a question from Josuguti. He's working in fostering service for the last 10 years and was managing a fostering teams in Slough and Reading councils, and now manages an independent fostering agency. And here are a few questions from Josuguti. There were a number of reviews of children's social care system and inquiries into serious incidents, which all recommended some core changes, which include addressing the challenges of recruitment and retention of social workers, reducing the caseload, and reducing the bureaucracy. My experience as a social worker, we achieved little in these areas. What are your views, sir?
Well, thank you for that tough question. I think it's a very timely question because one of the reasons why I stress the elements of good professional practice is that I think it's for the organizations, be it the local authorities or the charities or private sector, to create the facilities for good practice to be put into operation. And I fear, I hope that I'm wrong and you're a better place to tell me, but I fear that in recent years, the pressure on the services has increased greatly, and a lot of preventive services have been reduced, and which means that family support, talking about fostering, is not what it used to be. And I think it's for all of us to keep making the case for better social work provision, better support to social workers in recognizing that it's a tough job, and most of all, a wider range of resources. I hate the idea of social work becoming simply a crisis-driven service rather than a service that actually starts from the first need rather than waiting until the crisis has developed. So we have to take action.
Another question from Josuguti. We now have a few new review of the system led by Josh McAllister and a national survey announced by the new Children's Commissioner. How optimistic are you we should be of any meaningful change to the children's social care?
Well, I think that this is an interesting time. I think that we have two choices. We can either say it'll all be a waste of time and it won't produce anything good and therefore we'll not contribute to it. Or the other hand, we can go to the great effort to make our best possible case. I am going to make my best possible case to both those reviews.
Another one, how far behind are we from being the best child protection system in the world? What needs changing?
Oh. Well, we're a long way behind from my view of the best child protection system in the world, only because I believe passionately that we have got to go on learning and developing and improving our services. Too many children, in my view, are exposed to experiences in their childhood that are probably going to scar them for the rest of their lives. And I think that identifying these children at an early stage and getting in quickly and providing what I think are family support. I don't mean receiving these children to care, because I don't think the state is a very good substitute parent, but I think that helping parents become better parents is what I think is the hallmark of a good childcare system, and we're a long way from that.
One more question from Josuti. The inquiries into serious incidents and social care reviews focuses on child protection, and the recommendations often add further layers of bureaucracy. In your view, what fundamental change children's social care in England need to improve the experience of children already in care?
Right. Well, let me say right away that I think the important thing in social work is the time that social workers spend with children, families, with people with mental health problems, addiction problems, people with learning disabilities, whatever it may be, rather than sitting behind a computer. And I think we've invested too much in bureaucratic tick box and too little in what I think are succinct analysis. And I think that I'm going to say something that will sound rather sort of hard, but I hope I don't come across this way. But I do think it's worthwhile thinking about. I used to say to the social workers that I managed, which is, of course, we need to record, we need to analyze, and we need to put thought into our records and reports. But that doesn't mean we've got to spend the largest part of our day, the largest part of our week sitting in front of a computer. And I think that if I'm really frank, although I tried to get social workers out of the office, I think that there were sometimes I had a feeling that some were more comfortable sitting behind the computer than they were actually knocking on doors. And I could understand why, but their job was to knock on doors and see these children.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. There's another question from our Thomas Joseph, who is our PRO, who liaised, in fact, with you in getting for this function. Thank you so much, Thomas. His question is, what were your thoughts and feelings when you were involved with Victoria Klimpy inquiry?
Thomas, that's a really important question. It had a marked impact upon me. First of all, every day of evidence, and it was a long inquiry because there were just so many people who had contact with Victoria. Every day of evidence, her parents, I should explain that Victoria was brought to this country by a great aunt, and then the great aunt got a boyfriend, and that was the problem. Her parents let the great aunt bring Victoria because they really wanted Victoria to have a good education. And the school teacher in the Ivory Coast had told the parents that Victoria was very bright indeed and very good, a very quick learner. So they thought the best thing was to let this aunt bring Victoria here. But of course, after it all happened, the parents came from the Ivory Coast, and every day they sat in front of me and listened to the evidence. I was full of admiration for them because I know what the evidence was doing to me, because I thought it was very distressing evidence, which I've only touched on a small amount of it in my earlier comments. And each evening when I was traveling home, each evening, I reflected on where we are in social work, in the police service, and in the health service, etc., about defining people's roles and responsibilities in the protection of children. And I thought that this had been a great setback, and I think that it was my hope and strong belief that there must be, if I can call it, a legacy from Victoria, which is that we must all learn the lessons and try to do better so that children don't experience this ever again. I have to say that although the chair of the local authority assured me that they'd learned all the lessons and that there was nothing more to be said, they were, etc., just a few months later, in the same authority, was the case of baby Peter. So constant vigilance is required in all of this, and there are no corners that can be cut. This is a really, really important part of our lives and our responsibility.
Thank you very much, sir. Another question from Jijo James, Safeguarding Adults Independent Cornwall Council. Dear Lord Leming, social work practices are ever changing in accordance with the challenges within our society, the complex life situations of the people, and legislative changes. Social workers are required to adapt to different social care IT systems when they move from one local authority to another, so that they can deliver appropriate support services to their service users. There is no doubt that a well-configured IT system makes a real contribution to service quality and staff productivity. Social workers and service users would immensely benefit if there was a single IT system across all the local authorities in England. Do you think there is any likelihood of having a same and unified IT system across all the local authorities in England? I like to add one more point to that. I actually work as an AMP, which covers an emergency duty team that covers 4 local authorities, one trust. So I am actually experiencing everyday problem. Last night I was working because I have to log in twin password system to each local authority database, and it's hard to remember all these things. So it would be one of the best questions I love to ask as well.
Oh, my dear fellow, I so much understand this question very well indeed, because as I said earlier on, when I was talking to Binu, I was born and brought up long before Zoom was ever thought of, and the fact that we're having meetings like this, you can imagine what the learning experience for me has been like trying to cope with all this technology. And even now, I feel as if the technology is moving ahead of me all of the time, and I'm never quite catching up. But you're quite right. I mean, I have different, as you have, different equipment, and therefore I've got different passwords and different systems, and it is a complete headache. And I agree completely. And I have a feeling, but this is only a feeling, because as you realize, this topic is really quite beyond me. But I have a feeling that although the systems are developing, we are still a bit behind in the implementation, and we have allowed ourselves to get the situation where the police have one kind of network, the hospitals have a different kind of network, the GPs use a different kind of network, etc. So what I was saying earlier on about bringing all the information from the schools or from the hospital or from the GP or from the police together to create a comprehensive picture is more difficult when the systems are actually incompatible. And one of the things that struck me about the Victoria Climby evidence was that on the one hand, it seems we ought to be able to communicate easier in this day and age. In fact, in reality, it is often more difficult because we can't get into the systems, or the systems can't get to us. It's a very real issue, and I'm incompetent to talk about most subjects, but I'm particularly incompetent to talk about this one. I've lost you. You're muted.
Oh, sorry, sir.
That's fine.
I have another question from Jibin, one of the executive committee member. A report published on Guardian on 6th of January 2021 claims that thousands of children sent to unregulated care homes amid COVID. As per the report, 3/4, almost 73% of unregulated provisions is privately run, and this part of the care sector is fast expanding. The financial opportunity presented can attract entrants to the market that know little or nothing about the care of children.
Yeah.
Would it be a better option to provide financial support and assistance to social workers to become social entrepreneurs and to run supported accommodation under their registration as a licensed provider?
Well, there's one thing for sure, and that is I don't think we should be placing children in unregistered accommodation. I think that we are in a situation all too often in which social workers are put in a position where they're simply having to find a roof over the child's head or a bed on which the child can sleep, rather than thinking that this is a deliberately chosen placement in order to benefit the child's development. One of the last pieces of work I did was about young people in secure accommodation. And I met a lot of young people that were insecure, had been in secure accommodation or were in secure accommodation. And I was, am I still with you?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. I met a lot of young people who unfortunately had been placed in situations rather, that I thought was really quite unsuitable to them. So I think it is important that we get back to being directed by what is in the best interest of the child's welfare and proper development, rather than the physical surroundings, if you know what I mean.
Thank you very much, Lord Laming. Now, due to time constraints, I would like to open this to all. If anybody would like to ask questions directly to Lord Laming.
I think James would
James, you muted.
Could you please unmute everyone?
James,
you are on. Please unmute, James.
Sorry, can I?
Go with Gigi first, and then we'll come back to James Uti. Yeah.
Hello, Lord Laming. It's a privilege for you to come to this meeting, and we are very honored. I came to this country in 2002 at the heart of Victoria Columbia situations going on, and yes. I come from a development side of work in children's services, so in India, doing a lot of development side of work. And I myself attended interview in Hackney at the time of the investigations going on and all this going on. And your analysis, and I didn't join there. Then I started in residential, and I started working in different local authorities in different capacities. And last 10 years, I've been working in, as a consultant, and currently doing an IRO role. So your analysis and recommendation of working together, you have talked about the benefit of believing, observation, social work, passion, and the use of analysis, and the multi-agency working, and asking the curiosity.
Yes.
We have formed this. I am also one of the founding member starting this forum. And you have looked into the cultural curiosity. I since sometimes when you're working, you talked about the uniqueness of every individuals, when you're working, and it's a passion. We have to do it, and you have to believe in yourself. No matter some people have asked questions about the changes every time happens. I think your the investigation created lots of changes into social work in terms of embedding good practice and modeling practice and working together, and Every Child Matters agenda. And this all helped in enabling us to understand how multi-agency work progress. And the forum has enabled us as a minority forum of a South Indian Social Workers Forum. It's all about, given the Every Child Matters, now the Black Lives Matters and cultural sensitivity, and we see is how we can contribute further into the social work system, even though we are a small group of community. And obviously we use this in order to understand and support each other from a multi-agency point of view, because we all come from different practice, children, adults, mental health, and this all contribute into the society's changes in the practice we try to do it. And how do you see this cultural shift, and how as a small minority can be a champion in terms of contributing in understanding the cultural sensitivity and supporting and more effective practice in social services?
Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent question. I was brought up in an area. It was a very, very poor, what we would call working class area, very, very poor area. But the thing was, it was all white, and it was only as I got older and progressed that I met people from different cultural backgrounds. And one of the things that why I emphasize humility is that I think that it has been very unfortunate that people have made assumptions on which they have no basis at all, no evidence at all about what it is like to come from a different cultural background. I've experienced this, as I indicated. I came from a very poor area, and of course I mixed with people who'd come from a very wealthy background, etc. And so in that respect, I could understand just a little bit about what it was like to come from a different circumstances. But the idea that we don't have to learn from each other and take all that we can get from learning from each other and help develop a hugely better understanding and better respect and better value from each other, I think it is to the cost of everybody. On what the people who are white are losing, in my view, out on that. And the people who come from different cultural backgrounds are also losing out because they are not well understood, and their values are not well understood and respected. And I'm a great believer, as you probably, I hope I've managed to convey, I'm a great believer in trying to make each contact and each day a learning experience rather than from a telling experience, and telling people, telling that we understand and this is what must happen, etc. And so I would like to work toward not a multicultural organization where we recognize that there are people from different backgrounds, but an integrated community in which people from different backgrounds feel as comfortable, feel as valued, and are able to contribute just like everybody else. And, other people will say to me, and they do say to me, that's pie in the sky. I believe that if we don't have the ambition, if we don't have the values, which says everybody matters and everybody's contribution is of equal value, then we're all the losers. And so I'm just a sort of evangelical old man, but I'm still going to bat on so that good colleagues like you can feel really very comfortable and very valued in the organization. It's who we are. It's not what we are that really matters.
Thank you very much, Gigi, for your question. Next, there's a question from Priya. Would like to ask a question, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for, it's been, I think for me, listening to you was also a little bit emotional because it was hard to listen to, the inquiry and what a young person from a different culture had to come, and the number of professionals who looked at her and missed out. So it's a little bit emotional for me because I am in child protection and manage a service of child protection. But I'm just thinking in terms of, I think Gigi raised a very valid point about the cultural diversity, and lack of understanding. And we are also in a culture, as you definitely know, that we are now very risk aversive,
Yes,
and we have tilted to the other side,
yes,
to the extent that everything needs to be so evidence-based that our focus is on the wrong families.
yeah,
And I also am concerned by the lack of diversity in management,
yes,
because as you know that there's very, very less racially kind of diverse management in leadership, and we probably it's about 7%, 14%. We're becoming multicultural. So I just wonder in terms of, because of your huge experience and the value that that you offer to this whole field of child protection, I wonder how we can, how you can, or support in terms of clear guidance about recruitment, about education skills, and also the representation of, diverse management who come from that thinking, because I think many of the decision making is also lack of understanding. And how do we deal with that, and how can you and I think this needs to come from the government level, because not from the local authority level. I think it's a struggle because we don't see people who really understand, and we cannot know it all. And I think the point of humility is well said, because we go in thinking we know it all, but we actually don't know. So I would like to hear as to what efforts have been made from that point of view, because we are multicultural, and how can that be pushed forward?
Well, thanks very much for that. First of all, I'll come back, if I may, to the multicultural bit, if I may. What you hit a nerve with me, on both of the points, on risk aversion, because I have this great fear, and I hope that I'm wrong, that risk aversion is based upon the needs of the organization never to get itself into a situation where it might be criticized. And so it is the organization needs and not the needs of children that are driving this. And I think the way in which I, in my little world, try to address this is to say that we need to develop the skills to produce an evidence-based decision-making, so that it's not reaction, it's evidence-based. And so the fact that a child falls out of bed and damages itself, bruises itself, is not taken immediately as a risk of deliberate child abuse. And whereas we can't decide that there is no child abuse immediately, we don't have to go to the other extreme of saying every bruise, every cut is an indication of child abuse. And I think that there's a great deal to be learned about how we deal with risk. And one of the reasons why I mentioned that we've lost a lot of the preventive services, one of the things that I used to rely upon heavily when I was a social worker was in having family centers, day centers, where we could have children, young children with bruises visiting the center, and we could get a better assessment of the relationship between the child and the parent. Children that have been abused indicate in their behavior, their fear, their uncertainty, all the rest of it. So children who have not been abused are, generally speaking, much more confident in their relationship with their parents. And so I think that we need to not handle risk on the basis of the interests of the organization, but in the interests of the child. With regard to multicultural, well, what I think, I can only say something that you may find is trivial, but I feel it very deeply, which is we've got hundreds and hundreds of years that has been based upon privilege, and hundreds of years. And I think that we are going through a period of recognizing that we've got to unlearn privilege, and we've got to learn instead equality of dignity, value, and opportunity. And I think the government has a big part to play. And maybe they ought to look at how many women are in the cabinet, for example, and get on and learn some basic lessons about how it's one thing to say we value everybody. It's another thing to demonstrate that is an everyday practice. And frankly, we've all got a part to play and trying to push that forward as best we can.
Thank you very much, Priya, for your question. And we have we are running out of time, but we have a couple of questions more, sir. One, please kindly brief your question, very brief. The question goes, James Kuti would like to ask a question.
Good morning, Lord Laming. My name is James Jose. I have been working as a designated children's local authority designated officer and child protection advisor to London Borough of Ealing, and currently I am working, undertaking some direct work with teenagers, 15 to 18-year-olds. I just wanted to ask a couple, probably one question based on some of the work you did with, well, in your own courts that I have read previously, the depressing route from being in care to being in prison. And today you talked about how resources was not constrained for Victoria Columbier. What I just wanted to ask you is, just not about the reviews and procedures and practice that you have looked into, but in terms of, your thoughts, could you tell us a little bit more about young people who are in care who end up being in prison? And this is more, I think, relevant in the current practice, moving towards contextual safeguarding. And so could you tell us a little bit about what you think or what your insight is on that aspect? What can be done on the ground, more on a practice point of view rather than on the process point of view? And is there any good practice that we could look at, how young people or any local authority or any organization that in your knowledge is working with young people who are in care in transforming them into the brighter, better side of independent life?
Well, thank you very much indeed. First of all, I think that we need to get an attitude well and truly established within each local authority that if the local authority is going to assume the parenting of a young child, they must demonstrate that they are a good parent. And a good parent requires a proper thought out care plan, which is going to help this young person overcome the difficulties that they've already experienced in life. And what I hear all too often is children in care not having a good experience, but being moved from place to place, school to school, and have little consistency in their life. In other words, their experience can sometimes be the exact opposite of the model of good parenting that we're teaching for children who are not in care. Yes, there are fortunately wonderful good practice. I'll be very brief, but I went to a secure unit in the north of England, where when I went in, there was a tremendous amount of shouting going on from a young man. I could hear the shouting, I couldn't see. As I walked around, the officer in charge told me that a young man was having a difficulty and a member of staff was dealing with it. I have to say it was one of the most remarkable pieces of social work I think I've ever seen, because this young man was very tall, very big, and the member of staff was quite small, and the young man was shouting. He's terribly angry, and the member of staff was standing with his hands behind his back, his own hands behind his back, in a completely non-threatening position. And it was just quietly saying to this young man, you know, this is not the way to deal with your concerns. We can help in other ways. I won't go on, but I went round the whole place, and then it was my great good fortune that just as we were ending the visit, this very angry young man that had been shouting and very threatening, very menacing, he suddenly just stopped and broke down into tears. And once he broke down to tears, the member of staff who'd had his hands behind his back all the time took hold of him and took him into a corner and sat down with him. And I thought, this was a remarkable piece of anger management. And there are good practices around, and I wish we could learn more from good practice and not highlight so much the bad practice, which is not going to take us anywhere. I wish you well in your work.
Thank you very much, James Woody. We're completely out of time now. So
Yeah.
we just want to get Lord Laming. Thank you very much for your precious time spending with us, answering our questions. We sincerely thank you for your invaluable time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much indeed for inviting me. It really has been an honor. As I said at the beginning, I wish we could have met personally, so I could have looked in your eyes and enjoy your nice smiles, and I could have congratulated you personally for all that you are doing in our society. Keep up the good work, and I'm really very supportive of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And if I've said anything useful, and maybe I haven't, but if I have, thank Thomas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Binu?
Bye.
Thank you, Lord Herbert Laming.
Oh, thank you. Wish you well.
Thank you. Before we move to the vote of thanks, I would like to remind all the members that we would be taking a screenshot. So therefore, anybody who would like to get captured, please turn the camera on. For those who do not wish to be captured, kindly continue to turn off your cameras. Now I would like to call Mr. Martin Chaco, our former chairperson, to offer his vote of thanks to Lord Laming.
Good morning, everybody. Social work is essentially working with people, and at times it can pose some challenges. And for professionals like us, social workers, that opens up wide range of opportunities in terms of how those challenges can be dealt with, what opportunities can be made use of with working with other agencies, professionals, family members, service users, etc., with whom we may be involved. I believe strongly that the art of listening has an very important place in our profession. And unless we keep on listening to the person, families, other professionals involved, I think we may not get a clear picture of what we are trying to achieve. And as we know, social work is a profession which tries to make a positive impact and positive change in people's life, individuals' life. And these challenges, these changes needs to be made positive. It needs to, each opportunities will be unique, and there is no two cases which will be equal and same. So what is important for us is to keep updated with the legislative issues, keep updated with all the relevant changes in the sectors, wherever we may be working, whether it is children's, adult, children's safeguarding, adult safeguarding, hospital discharge, whatever be the area of our working or mental health. And to build up the relationship. We know from experience, okay, we may be firefighting most of the time. But building up of a right relationship with our service users and their families can make life easier for us and for all with whom we may be working with. And it is also time to celebrate while we are in this day of World Social Work Day celebration. Celebrate our achievements. Celebrate the good things we have managed to achieve so far in your profession and your career. The positive changes we have managed to achieve and contribute to the people with whom we are working with. Whether it is in the local authority, whether it is in the community, whether it is in the wider society we may be working. Dear Lord Laming, we are really honored to have you in this meeting with your esteemed presence. And this also enables us to actually recall the exceptional contributions Lord Laming has made to the social work in this country. We thank you for the thought-provoking and inspiring talk, the keynote address. Also, for the your kind willingness to actually answer some of our key questions, which we feel is very relevant to the work we do in this country, which can make a difference and positive impact on the service users and their families and the wider community where we work. So, dear Lord Laming, I take this opportunity to express our gratitude for being with us, giving us the inspiring keynote and answer our questions. Thank you very much. We also wish you all the very best with your future endeavors. And we hope, okay, there are more things to be done, which you are able to do. And there are more things which can make a difference with your valuable, sensible contribution to the social care. Thank you very much, Layman. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. I appreciate it enormously. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Thank you.
I now request Mrs. Priya David, a member of the International Committee from Baswa, to talk about the British Association of Social Workers.
Just a minute. Lord Laming, you're welcome to stay back as long as you like to stay on. I know you have got other appointments.
That's right.
Thank you.
I'm going to, if you don't mind, I hate doing this, but I'm going to leave you if I may, because I've got another meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Thank you.
Wish you great success. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning all. It's a great honor and privilege to welcome and introduce our two eminent guests from Baswa, Dr. David Jones and Ms. Narendra Sidhu, to the UKMSW Forum. On the onset, I want to say a huge big thank you to both of you for taking your time off on a weekend and joining us. Let me go on to my introductions. I'm very mindful of time here. I'm sure for those who have visited the Baswa website, Dr. David Jones is a very familiar name. However, for those who are not familiar, I will try my best to summarize briefly his rich career achievements. Dr. David Jones is one of the pillars of Baswa, and he's well known for his varied work here in UK and globally. He's a qualified social worker and a senior manager with extensive national and local government, NGO, and private sector experience. His experiences range from being a director of operations to working for the Audit Commission and finishing as one of Her Majesty's Inspectors of Children's Services with Ofsted in 2010 when he retired from the civil service. While doing all of the above, Dr. Jones was also the president of International Federation of Social Workers, IFSW, between 2006 and 10, and was a global coordinator of the Global Agenda for Social Work and Social Development. He's currently a board member of COSWA, the Commonwealth Organization for Social Work, and its main representative to the Commonwealth institutions, and a member of Baswa Council. He's a trustee of Children and Families Across Borders and has published and spoken extensively on social work practice and management in UK and overseas. He has co-written and authored books on child protection, management and regulation of social work, and disasters and international social policy. On a personal note, I have had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Jones as chair of the International Committee. His commitment to the agenda of, to the global agenda of social work and learning from social work practice all over the world is contagious and worth learning from. Dr. Jones, I'm sure our members will greatly benefit from listening to you today, and I welcome you again to our forum. Moving on to our second key guest from Baswa, we have Ms. Narendra Sidhu with us. Ms. Sidhu is equally a passionate social worker and a great advocate for the equality and inclusivity of all social workers, regardless of the country of origin here in UK. Ms. Sidhu herself, being from India, understands personally the experiences of a diaspora social work group. She currently is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Lead Officer for Baswa. Prior to this, she was on the Baswa Council and was the former chair of Baswa Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Group. She's an experienced social worker who has extensive experience of mental health social work, working with camps. She's also worked with adult services as a forensic social worker. She's a guest lecturer at the University of Derby, and though her specialism is social work law and policy and practice-based learning, she teaches social work students on practice related to culture, such as female genital mutilation, honor-based violence, and forced marriage. She's been committed to promote equality of opportunity within UK institutions and served as an active member of the Race Equality Group, promoting inclusion, enhancing student experience and workplace diversity within higher education settings. I understand she uses poetry as a tool to address injustice and inequality. Ms. Sidhu, we are really fortunate to have you with us this morning, and we so look forward to hearing from you. Now, the stage is to you, David and Sidhu, and we look forward to hearing from both of you.
Thank you very much, Priya, for that kind introduction, and to everybody for inviting us to join you today and at the weekend. And thank you for your time to committing to this. What I think I was asked to do was to talk a little bit about the association and social work. Obviously, from what Priya has said, there are many things we could discuss in questions, but Narendra and I have a presentation about 15 minutes. So if I just go through that and then I'm very happy to have a discussion and talk with you all. So I think I'm going to be able to share my screen, which is what I'm doing now. I hope you can see that. Is that working all right? Priya, can you see? Yes.
It's working.
Good. So that's really kind to invite us in this World Social Work Week or month Baswa has been celebrating. As you know, this is the World Social Work Day, and there is a poster which we've seen all around the world and picking up the theme of Ubuntu, I am because we are, which I think resonates with many cultures around the world. In fact, I think it's the predominant sense that we are connected with each other and with nature. Social solidarity and global connectedness is the norm, and individualism is in a way an aberration. But that has been translated into many languages, and this is a poster from your part of the world, as I understand it, but there are many others, translations, 60 or 70. It is incredible. I was involved in establishing World Social Work Day. The first one was in 2007. When I was president of IFSW, and before that we had a European Social Work Action Day that started around 1997, something like that. But now it has taken off and people have made it their own, and that is very, very exciting. So what we're going to cover today is a bit about us, a bit about BASWA, and then hearing your thoughts and ideas and questions and reflections and challenges. Narinder, could I just check, are you there? Could you unmute and just say hello?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for having myself and David here. I've got to echo that I feel quite privileged to be part of this. So yes, thank you very much. So yeah, shall we start our presentation and just talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion, and then I'll just kind of let you lead, David, and make some contributions as we go through each slide. I think that might be a bit better.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one of the key things that Lord Laming was saying at the end there is recognizing the incredible diversity of UK social work, and that is an absolute reality. But yet we know from conversations that we've had the challenges and difficulties that many people who've qualified abroad or who've come from abroad and qualified here, there are many difficulties that people experience. But our view is that social work, exactly as Lord Laming was saying, is enriched by the presence and contribution of social workers who trained and qualified abroad, and of people who came from abroad and qualified here. And it's sad that some employers find that so difficult and have really little understanding of how to help people to provide a service. So we can perhaps talk a bit about that. And that is why we've established a diaspora project group, which includes Priya and a number of others. And this is exploring whether, and if so, how BASWA can assist and support the formal and informal networks of social workers who qualified abroad. You have a formal structure which is really helpful. Some of the diaspora communities are much less formal. But we've launched this week a questionnaire for social workers from diaspora communities to explore what that experience has been. And Priya may be able to discuss a little bit later what's in that questionnaire when we come to the questions and discussion. But Priya and Anstance Chunda, who comes from Malawi, and Duke Tran, who is Vietnamese, but came through Australia, working with staff member Roseanne, have developed that questionnaire, and we really would encourage everybody to respond to it to get a better overview of how diaspora social workers, if I can use that phrase, are experiencing practice here. We are looking at guidance for employers. There was guidance issued by the Local Government Association and endorsed by employers and government in the 1990s. I was actually involved in writing that guidance. It's now fallen out of use, but we're looking at bringing it back in some way, and BASWA championing that. And there are also opportunities which we can explore later, perhaps about training and networking, how the association's resources can be helpful there, and mentoring and support for individual workers. Members have access to a mentoring support service these days, recently launched, and you would have access to that as members. So this is about us, the project group I've already mentioned, and Priya is a key member of that and has been chairing it. And you heard a little bit about Narinder and myself, so I don't need to dwell on that. So if I could just move on to say a little bit about the association. I'm sure many of you are members. We now have over 22,000 members. We're as big as we've ever been. And we're one of the biggest associations in the world. Of course, the American Association with over 100,000 members is the biggest, but we're one of the biggest associations of social workers in the world. And we aim to represent social work and social workers. And we are across all the 4 countries of the UK with a central team that's based in Birmingham, but obviously everybody is working from home at the moment. And we have offices in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, a staff of around 80 people who are supporting social work and social workers. We support social workers through the advice and representation service, which is provided by trained advisors who are social workers. And this is one of the main services that we have, which provides advice and can actually represent social workers in hearings with the social work councils in the 4 countries, and can also work with employers. I've used that myself on occasions. It doesn't mean that you are in the wrong if you need to seek advice. We all need advice, and it's really reassuring to know that that service is there and available.
Sorry, David, can I expand on that while you're on that?
Yes, go on, Norinda.
So BASWA actually is a professional association, as David rightly mentions, and we speak to a lot of students, agency social workers, independent social workers, members, non-members. And I was really quite excited and impressed. I have been on your website, and your aims and objectives are very much similar to ours at BASWA. I think my dog may bark now. The postman's just dropping something off. He's all right. So give me a minute, 1 second. Sorry.
Shall I continue and we'll come back to Norinda?
Yeah.
Always the fun of working from home. So there are a number of things that we offer, but we also support social work. And this is important in that we have a wide range of resources for practice. I'll come back to you, Norinda, later. Yeah. We have a wide range of resources for practice, but we also lobby politicians in Westminster and the 3 governments. We have staff who do that, as well as members who get involved. Politicians always want to hear the stories from the practitioners, so we can facilitate that. But we have a person working in Westminster for us, and we have staff working in the other parliaments, and we do have an influence, always, of course, working with others. And we're always working in partnerships. So there's a whole range of partnerships. And we're developing a wider range of universities, developing practice, ensuring that the voice of practitioners is heard in university work. And Norinda, you might now, if your dog has quietened down, be able to talk a bit about
David. Sorry, everyone. They say don't work with animals, don't they?
Do you want to say something about the diversity work that we've got going, which is led by our chair, Jerry Nazowska?
Yeah, so basically, even looking at how social workers who've been born here and actually practicing, we've kind of accepted that across the nations, as part of the work that we do end up doing a lot of work helping individuals from Black, Asian and minority ethnicities. And those people that contact us, whether they be non-members who then want to join, or members that are already with us, do end up, like David says, having difficulties within their training placement within the higher education or at work. Before the dog started barking, what I wanted to just clarify was just to make it quite simple. I just wanted to so that you get a fuller understanding of what BASWA do. So when you're a member of BASWA, you're protected. So you've got an insurance cover in regards to your social work role, which is quite important in case anyone wanted to sue you down the line and so on. You're represented, so you've got, if you come across any employment tribunals, we have the advice and representation team there to give you advice over the telephone and kind of be that kind of support for you, really. You're also going to be progressing your career because we have development opportunities, such as you do have in your group as well, and there's CPDs, which is continued professional development opportunities, training. You're also informed, so we've got the Professional Social Work magazine, which comes out quarterly, and members and non-members are more than welcome to write about their social work practice and any key issues, and also celebrate their achievements within social worker as well. And part of being informed is that BASWA has a website and access to other resources online that you can tap into and keep your knowledge up to date. You're also recognised as a member of BASWA. You're allowed to put MBASW after your name, and it shows that you're committed to professional practice. And we are also, it recognises that you're an ethical social worker where you follow the BASWA Code of Ethics, and we kind of support the highest professional standards of practice. You're also connected, and I get, you know, it's about social work is such a difficult, complex role, isn't it? And sometimes you just need to talk to colleagues that are going through similar struggles and similar issues within work, and just have that space to offload safely, really. And you're connected to other social workers through events, branches, specialist interest groups, and so on. And we support, especially with the international, this is really interesting because we support the work that you do as well. And you're able to also practice independently as well, because we have various memberships. So students can join while they are training in England to be a social worker. And then they get a reduced fee, and they're able to kind of tap into all the resources in that sense. So we also have a trade union, and the trade union is called SWU, the Social Works Union. So when things, for instance, employment troubles get kind of serious, what they kind of help and support members with is going through the disciplinary and grievance procedure at work. And that includes representation to internal hearings. It also tackles issues around discrimination and investigations, and also some of our students have difficulties in placements purely because they're a person of colour. They're treated very differently. And in my role as the Equality and Diversity Inclusion lead, which I started in February, last year we developed, because we kept getting, we were very, at BASWA, we kind of identified and highlighted quite quickly that there is discrimination with social workers who are unique and different from maybe the colour of their skin, or their name isn't an Anglo-Saxon name, so they're not getting opportunities, they're not getting the jobs, they're not getting to the interviews, and they're not getting selected. And it's about promoting equality of opportunity, really. So we set up an advisory group which feeds directly into council, and that Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Group is a wide range of individuals such as yourself, working in all sorts of areas of the UK, so Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England, and also with loads of different specialities, and also those with lived experiences who've used services. And from that, we developed a equality, diversity, inclusion strategy, which we've got a very strong vision on. From that, there was 3 roles that were identified for BASWA, and I started as the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion lead, and then I've got 2 colleagues who are the anti-racist leads to tackle those issues, and also train employers, local authorities. Sometimes we do get a lot of calls from the same local authorities, and like David said, you know, that part of where we're not able to kind of have that guidance, I think, for employees. There's not anything out there at the moment. So what we're hearing is some scary stories about how our social workers are being treated while they're doing their work. So that's just a little bit about BASWA in regards to what services and why people feel the membership is quite valuable.
Thank you, Narinda, and we can open up questions about all of those issues. I just wanted to touch on the international networks as well, although perhaps I should say that having been in social work for so long, when I was in BASWA as the General Secretary, Chief Executive in the 80s and 90s, I was also on the CETSWA Council, the Central Council for Education and Training in Social Work. And I was very involved with the anti-racist work at that time and in the backlash against it. So I've got a lot of personal experience of the politics of anti-racism in this country and how it can work. But internationally, we have links here, and I'll just go through this quickly. Just to note really that there's the International Federation of Social Workers that leads on World Social Work Day. There's the Commonwealth Organization for Social Work, which has strong connections with the Commonwealth. And BASWA itself has an international committee. We have an international development fund, which is available to members to help them in making connections. During the COVID period, we've given, I think, £40,000 to international projects, and indeed at least one in South India, which is linked with Priya's contacts. And we also are looking at developing an international social work network, or a grouping of people who are interested in international social work. So this is, I think, the last slide. Many members are content just to receive professional social work, which is actually monthly, and to access resources, and you don't need to do anything else. But if you wish to get involved, there are ways in which you can get involved, through branches, through special interest groups like Priya, through serving on committees. And we've got a range of different groups that we support, and we have very extensive partnerships, which brings me back to this project group, and why it's good that we're talking with you and with others about how the association can more effectively support people from diaspora communities. The many, many of you who are working in social work in the UK, and without you, the service would fall apart. So it's really important, both from your interests and from the wider service interests, that we think carefully about how staff get support. So it's over to you now for your comments and your questions. Narendra and I and Priya will do our best to answer them. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and I hope that gave you some of the things that you were looking for.
Thank you, Dr. David Jones and Narinder. Sadly, I'm still not a member of BASWA, but I assure you that I would soon be one. So now may I call upon Mrs. Priya David and Mr. Thomas Joseph for facilitating the Q&A session, please.
Thank you, Binu. And I know lots of people struggle about which organisation to belong to, and often there are choices to be made. For much of the time, I was a member when I was in work with Unison, or as it was then, NALGO. And there are a number of organisations, but people in the end have to make their choices, or can belong to more than one. Of course, that's also possible. We work closely with trades unions. But Priya, sorry, I'm talking over you. Back to you.
Not at all. So David, we do have a question that's come up, and I'm just going to read that question. And I know that Thomas also is looking at the question. So, and please feel free, guys, to just raise your hands and to ask as much as questions as possible, because this is a rare opportunity where you have two people from BASWA here. So any queries you have, please use this opportunity. So we have a question that's come through. It says, as part of the diaspora project, would it be possible to introduce a bridging program in support of several social workers who are in UK to obtain a registration with Social Work England and gain some UK experience? David, if you want to. And that's from Jibin.
If I could expand it a little bit more. I was referring to, there's a huge number of social workers, it's mainly from South India and different parts of India. They are qualified, but obtaining a registration with Social Work England is often difficult. And I'm talking from my own experience. It took me 3 years to get a job in UK. It was very difficult when I got to interview to give evidence to say that how I used confidentiality in my practice, or give me a situation or an example you applied safeguarding, which is slightly different because it is not legislative social work we practiced in India. So my question was, as an organization with 22,000 people, would it be possible under the Diaspora project to introduce something like a sandwich program or a bridging course, where you give opportunity for people to convert their skill while gaining some valuable experience, preparing them for the job market in UK?
It's a really relevant and good question, and it's the sort of thing that I think we could explore on a number of levels. Let's first of all say that social work in India has an incredibly long history, is incredibly respected. There are a number of institutions of world-class. Tata Institute in Mumbai, I've visited. I've been in Mumbai 3 or 4 times and visited all the social work programs there. I haven't been to South India, but I'm working very closely now with Madras Christian College, with the chair of the Commonwealth Organization is Sylvia Daisy Romanus from MCC, and they are hosting a webinar for us at the end of this month on the development of social work in the Commonwealth. Some of you might be interested. And there's quite a big project that we are looking at with the Institute of Commonwealth Studies at the University of London to do a major research project on the development of social work across the Commonwealth. There is no question that social work qualifications in India are recognized to be world-class and should be properly recognized here as well. So that's the first point, Jimin, for your asking. The second thing is the bridging and the advice and so on. I think BASWA would be very open. Jane Shears is the head of the development program. And one of the things we have thought about in advance of this meeting and as part of the Diaspora project is what training opportunities we could offer. And there's also mentoring and support opportunities as well. So yes, there's something there. The other thing is to talk with Social Work England themselves about how they treat people who come from overseas. I know, for example, we had an experience of somebody from Libya who had a doctorate from a UK university. While she was studying that, Libya went into their major crisis and she was not able to go home. All her paperwork was at home and she couldn't produce that paperwork to demonstrate her qualifications. She'd managed a major service in the hospital in Tripoli, and yet she wasn't able to get registration as a social worker by the previous regulator, forget their name for the time being, the Healthcare Professions Council, HCPC. We weren't able to push through that, although I did have conversations with people who headed up their committees, and they saw that refugee issues are significant. And as a profession, we should respond to that positively. We shouldn't be putting barriers in people's way. So I think you're raising a really very relevant point, and I'm very happy to have a conversation with the committee or with others afterwards and see what we might be able to offer. Does that go some way, Jibin, to speaking to some of the things you're worried about?
Definitely, it is very supportive, and it's good to hear from you. As an independent member of BASWA, I was really happy to know that from you, that you're happy to support. And the Diaspora project itself is you're reaching into people who are from the minority community, giving that, listening to the social workers, giving them an opportunity to raise their voice. And I certainly believe this will go extra mile, because there is a lot of people who are qualified social workers, and being a shortage occupation in great demand of permanent social workers in this country, this could be a good pool of people, quality talent.
Absolutely, and in a way we've been thinking about this for some time, but back in 2018 we had a fringe meeting at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting when they met in London. And by the way, COSWA, as an accredited organisation to the Commonwealth, has the right to meet the Secretary General and also to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings. So I sat in meetings. It was a mixed blessing, but anyway, it was interesting to see Boris Johnson and sit in the same room, seeing him chairing the Commonwealth Foreign Ministers. I also met him, actually. I'll tell you the story. He was it was at a big reception, and there were crowds of people, and he was going round meeting people, a lot of young people from the Commonwealth. It was in the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and he was coming up to me, and the Windrush crisis had just broken, and everybody was wanting to get photographs with Boris. And I went up to him and said, "Mr. Johnson, I'm afraid I don't want a selfie with you, but I need to speak to you about Windrush, and I need to tell you how damaging that is for our country, and you are in a position to do something about it, and we expect you to do something about it." And he jumped back and said, "What do you mean? What do you mean? It's nothing to do with me." And I said, "Yes, it is everything to do with you. You're responsible and you should do something about it. And it's shameful how long the government has taken to address it. And the hostile environment which has been created around immigration is deeply troubling and is really seriously threatening to our whole society." So it's very important that we stand together around these sorts of issues and have the courage to stand up and follow that through. Sorry, you just touched a nerve on me there, but we can, because of our position, say these things sometimes to people in power and work them through and get solutions sometimes. Back to you, Priya.
Sorry, can I just add to that? Yeah, Jibin, it's a really important piece of work that we're looking at in Basra, and I talk to a lot of social workers from all over the world who have very similar concerns that you've raised. And we have various arms, because Basra is such a huge organisation in the sense that it's huge, not in manpower, but in the work and the projects that we've got going. And there's very different perspectives to look at this. So from an equality point of view, we've got, for instance, the Heritage Group, and we look at the past, present, and future of social workers. And we're really keen, like you said, to talk to the regulators, and that is a role that we will take a part of equality, diversity, inclusion work that we do. But also there can be things that we offer, like you said, volunteering roles, and to create CPD opportunities for all of you so that you're able to meet those high expectations of a regulator and so on. So I totally understand your concerns in regards to that, and that is one of the top priorities that we will be looking at, because there is a lot of unfairness for social workers across from all over the world when they come here, and that's something that we definitely need to tackle. And I think that's why the questionnaire as well, and the work that you're doing, it's going to be so powerful. And this is why when David told me about this group, I was really excited, because I talked to various other individuals that are from different countries, but they haven't been able to form this a similar support network to how you have.
Okay, thank you, David and Narendra. I think we may have time for one or two more questions. So is there anyone else who wants to ask any questions or make any comments? Can you just put your hands up? Okay, Gigi, and thank you, David and Narendra, for accepting the invitation to come into this meeting. Okay, go on, Gigi.
I am one of the founder member of this forum. I came to this country in 2002 doing a lot of development side of the work with the children's and in Delhi, working with the street children. And I've been involved in setting up a youth bank, and I was the lead, and that enabled me to come into, because that's a project, international project I was involved in, and enabled me to come for an international conference in UK. And I was looking at development side of the work internationally, UN, around the world. And that led into coming into UK, and then end up working in, social work and doing quite a lot of residential work. And then moved into local authority and worked across service. And I've been a management consultant for the last 10 years, primarily working in inadequate local authorities to strengthen practice and management roles. And, and I have done set up MASH in children's services, worked in EDT, care proceedings, living care service, fostering panels and foster services. I also involved in setting up international social worker, recruitment, and some of the forum members been part of this, sitting here. And I was doing, because I was transitioned from India, and I want to help people transition and support and mentor and coach people. And what I noticed is the difficulty is that the color, Narendra, you mentioned about disproportionality of some of the people. I'm sure they have been involved in unnecessary disciplinary process and being, because of the color, because of the language, because of the interpretation. And the difficulty I have seen is, I was coaching and supporting when those people being inducted into the authority because of my experience. Trying to give low caseloads and support, etc. But I think over the years, still lack of support and high levels of case allocations, so that all implicated for for disproportionate disciplinary proceedings against them. And I also noticed that because even the reason I'm remaining as a middle management sort of consultant level is of the lack of opportunity because of career opportunity, so because obviously even you have to double work to prove because of the color aspect. And that is one of the reasons, we've set up the forum, because I think because of, I'm also a member of BUSWA since 2009, and, realizing that cultural sensitivity and most of the local authorities not understanding the strength of the cultural diversity and, sensitivity, because I worked in, like a diverse local authority like a Slough, Reading, then I worked in Wokingham, West Berkshire, Windsor and Maidenhead, those predominant different cultural, but I was able to make instructive, a significant difference in terms of cultural perspective, in terms of multi-agency working and people's attitude and female genital mutilations and domestic violence and forced marriages, things like that, even CSE, so even those elements. So what we as a group, we've formed is that, as Narendra, you mentioned that, in partnership, so moving things forward, how we can effectively, there is very lot of similar ethos and partnership working, and with the development side of the work, how we can effectively work together as a team, even though we are a small group, but with a diverse opportunity, from a different angle. People come from children protection, mental health, adult social care, and everything. So given where we are as a society in social work, and how we can effectively work, and obviously that's what we would be more interested, so in partnership working in more and contributing for as a small group into the cultural diversity and development of further social work in this country.
Yeah, well, you're raising huge questions, of course, and I think the first thing to say is that people choose the people to support them and to be friendly with that they feel comfortable with, and that's their right. So forming a group to support each other is an absolutely understandable thing, and absolutely to be encouraged. If there is some way that either as a group or individually, the association can work with you or develop some things jointly with you that makes it helpful, then that's an open agenda for us to explore. I think it's a question of starting from exploration. There are no assumptions about anything before you begin. But if there are things that we are doing that we can either do jointly or that we can do on your advice, those are things that we can talk about and explore. I know how easy it is to make mistakes and how easy it is to misunderstand. And that's why we have to tread sort of carefully, but yet there's also a need to do something, and we need to be brave, but to be listening. So I hope that the way the association works follows the best social work principles of mutual respect, of recognizing cultural diversity, recognizing that everybody brings something to the table, and we're holding out an opportunity for that conversation. And if it's helpful, we're very happy to talk. Priya is leading the Diaspora project. Somebody asked, how can you join the Diaspora group? That was in the chat. And I think I could say there isn't a Diaspora group as such to join. There's a project group that is overseeing how the association develops things. We don't want to add more and more groups which take up people's time when we're all so busy and committed. But anything is possible for discussion. And if people are interested, either individually or as a formal organization, I think there are ways that we could take that forward. Narendra, would you?
Yeah, can I just add, yeah, Gigi, you make some excellent points there. And this is the difference where BASWA's really turned around the corner here, because these three roles that I talk about, and part of the equality roles, is a committed a team of people there that are going to tackle all of the issues and much more, Gigi, that you mentioned. And part of my role, and I'll give you a bit of an example really, to reassure you that we are hearing voices, and people are repeating this, and a lot of social workers come up to me, people of colour, we need to tackle, we as an organisation at BASWA need to get better at collecting data, which we are doing on ethnicity, but we're also looking at developing research and so on. We're also talking to regulators such as Social Work England and also the regulators that are in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, to ask them to work with us to actually collate and keep that data as well. Because what you'll find is people that they've got waiting for fitness to practice panels, I want to know, are they majority of people of colour? Or are they people who, because you know, the data speaks volumes. And we're also recognising that we need more people of colour in leadership roles to understand and promote and educate and raise awareness, because we are not, like, it's a very unfair kind of arena out there that we work in. I don't get it myself why we don't value in this country what you bring to the table as professional practitioners. And something that popped into my head there is when I was teaching at the University of Derby, we used to send our social workers to India on placement. And yet, when you come over here and want to work and help us in social work, we say, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And it's this is what makes my job interesting, challenging, but a very powerful voice we have at BASWA. And these are the things that we want to make change. We haven't, and that's why I need to kind of reassure you, I know that sometimes people look at BASWA. I mean, I did when I was a social worker and think, do I fit in this organisation? We're increasing our diversity on council at BASWA. We're increasing our diversity in key roles. And we've kind of said, this is what we need to do. How are we going to do it? And it's one of the reasons why I took on this role, because I think I'm quite fussy, where I work, and I know that BASWA want to make a change. So do obviously, complete, like David says, do contact us with any ideas. We're constantly listening to members. We do lots of events. We hold lots of round tables. We've started the discussion about racism. We've had one in England. I've got one this week, and I'm talking to individuals about racism in Scotland. And it's just a conversation because we're offering that brave and safe space. But, and then we can obviously, I mean, these discussions are really powerful as well, because myself and David will feed back to BASWA and take this. It's a learning opportunity for us as well. But everything that I've heard in this discussion, so many people say to me on a daily basis, and I will continue to work with David and BASWA to kind of make those differences. So do get in touch with us. You don't need to be a member to get in touch with us. I talk to lots of different people and learn loads of different things, and I'm, we are banging down that door.
Thank you so much. David and Narinda, I'm conscious we are running out of time here, and there's one more speaker, I guess. So thank you. It was really valuable to hear. To hear from you, and so we have no time for further questions. But if there are any questions, guys, please can you text me, and I'll forward that to send it to us, and I'll forward that to David and Narinda, so that and we will get back to you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya, for coordinating this. Thank you, David and Narinda. Now I would like to call upon Mrs. J.C. Jaimon, our Joint Secretary, to offer the vote of thanks.
It gives me immense pleasure to deliver a vote of thanks to the dignitaries from British Association of Social Work. I'm JC. We are here on behalf of United Kingdom Malayali Social Work Forum to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. David Jones, the chair of International Committee of British Association of Social Work, to graciously consent to participate in today's World Social Work Day celebrations with us and to deliver us informative presentation to us. I would also like to thank Narendra Sindhu, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Lead Officer, British Association of Social Work, who honored this function with her presence and contribution. It's been very fascinating and indulging session. I'm really moved with the love and support you showed through spending your precious time with us, sharing your thoughts, ideas, and answering our questions. I think you would be happy to know that the session was great encouragement for all of us. It's good to know that we have UK's largest professional association of social workers behind us to represent, advocate, and to support us in our profession. Thank you, Dr. Jones, and thank you, Narendra Sindhu. We look forward for more opportunities to work with BASWA in future. A word of praise and thanks to Priya, our former Vice Chairperson, UK Malayali Social Work Forum, and one of the committee members of BASWA, and to Thomas Joseph, Public Relations Officer UK, Malayali Social Work Forum, for introducing and arranging these two inspiring personalities to us today. Thank you for facilitating the question and answer session. Thank you, Priya and Thomas. Last but not the least, my heartfelt thanks to you all participants for being actively participating in this session. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you, JC, for the acknowledgement. May I now call upon Mr. Joskuti Jose, our former secretary, for welcoming Dr. Ipe Verghese from CAPS.
Just to Narendra and David, if you like to stay on, you are welcome to stay on. As long as you would like to, we'll carry on. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Our next speaker is from Kerala Association of Professional Social Workers. The association is the primary organization for qualified social workers in Kerala and working for a decade with an aim to bring about the recognition to the social work profession and the social workers in Kerala. The UKMSW Forum has been working in partnership with CAPS since last year, and many of our members knows Dr. Ipe Verghese through our collaboration last year. This includes sharing resources and mutually participating in events organized by both the forums. Today we have the General Secretary of CAPS joining us, who is the social worker with extensive experience and has a lead role in many other professional social work organizations in India. He's also an academician, currently works as the head of the Department of Social Work at BCM College, Kottayam, Kerala. Let us all welcome Dr. Ipe Verghese from CAPS to our forum to speak to us.
Hello, good evening, everybody. It's good evening here, that's why. Hope I'm audible. Hello.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, okay. So, respected Mr. Thomas, CB Thomas, Chairperson Thomas Joseph, CB Sebastian, James Kuti, and Biju Anthony, our old friends Martin and Tommy. Actually, I know it's very late now, and you must be tired listening to two key speakers. It was good listening to Mr. David James and Lord Leming. Of course, I could not listen to David Jones much because I have already entered into another meeting scheduled at 5 o'clock. Here in India, we are trying for a National Social Work Council. Already bill has been drafted and sent to Prime Minister, and now a campaign is on, and I'm in charge of the southern states, so that the committee meeting is there. I'm already in that committee meeting, so I took 5 minutes leave and again switched on my video and audio here. So anyway, thank you for organizing this, and congratulations for organizing this particular meeting, because as it was said in the introductory remarks, because this is a day when we think about ourselves, how good we are in social work, what contributions we make towards the social work profession, and what are the things we take, how seriously we do the work. Everything is very important, and as we do on our birthdays, a kind of evaluation that is required, especially on the basis of our profession. So Ubuntu is stands for love. It stands for caring, and it stands for sharing. It stands for growing together and developing together. So I don't want to talk on this much because the very good meanings are being already shared. Yesterday, we had a national meeting on the same in India. So in which one African lady, Mrs. Nadeshan from Johannesburg University. So she explained the very good meanings of Ubuntu, what it stands for. It was a very good session. And in India, of course, from March 10th onwards, we started observing this day. And I personally, this is the 15th meeting I am attending since 10th of March. So a lot of people all are engaged in celebrating social work day in India. It's a good move. At least we should start thinking about our profession. I've been asked to share something about Kerala Association of Professional Social Workers, and I'm sure you are keen to listen. If not now, at least you must have thought that how the profession is going on there. Is there any association over Kerala? Since you left Kerala, how the things are there? But it's very late now, but still, please give me 5 minutes so that you will get some idea. Later on, we can talk in detail because it's already 5:30 here, 5:35 here, and they will be calling me at any time for my presentation over there. And okay, so the Kerala Association of Professional Social Workers, known as CAPS, it is formed in the year 2012, and we have district chapters in all the districts of Kerala. It's a slow growth over here, and now it is affiliated to IFSW through India Network of Professional Social Workers Associations, INPSWA. INPSWA is a network of all the professional social work associations in India. And because earlier India was not a member in IFSW, and that's why we have formed a network of all the associations. Since IFSW accept only one organization from a country, and now we are member in IFSW. And CAPS, we have got other associations also here, like Teachers Association from the higher secondary school, that is SOTA, from the colleges, ASK, then Psychiatric Social Workers Association, and the Students Association. And the president and secretaries of all these associations are member in the governing body of CAPS. And all these people take membership in CAPS only, even though they work for the betterment of their own areas of interest. And we organize student congress since 2015. This is the only student congress in India that is happening in Kerala, and regularly we do. This year we have done it online. And we also have a professionals congress that started in 2016. Every year it is there. This year again it was conducted online. This year it was inaugurated by Mr. Rory Truell, the Secretary General of IOSW, since it was online. And of course, we celebrate the World Social Work Day every year with a lot of programs, and even with the street procession. This year we could not have any street procession, but it's a very good event. And we have got 5-6 wings, separate wings within CAPS that take care of different dimensions of our profession. One is advocacy team. So what this advocacy team do is they take up all the problems faced by social workers with the government and other organizations. So we used to visit the secretariat and meet secretary, MLAs, ministers for solving the problems faced by the social workers in Kerala. So this is one team. Another wing is Skill Academy, SCAP Skill Academy. So this starts, for developing the skills of social workers in all the areas. So, and we conduct training programs. During the COVID period, we have already conducted 16 training programs, and 2 trainings are now on now also. Some trainings are for a single day, maybe for a week or 2-3 days, and some trainings are continuing for 3-4 months also. So that is already happening, and we have organized 51 seminars in the since last April, all online. So this is what Skill Academy does. And we have a research and publication wing. So this is for strengthening the research activities. We undertake researches, and of course giving training on different aspects of research to the scholars, students, and practitioners, and various aspects. And we have a mentoring group also, research mentoring group, that supports the research and publication of individuals. If anybody is facing any problem regarding research and publication, they can contact this mentoring group. And of course, we started one journal last year. Only one issue has been published, and the next will be published very soon. And we have also published one book last week. an edited book with 19 articles in it. So we consider this as a great achievement as far as our small Kerala is concerned. Anyway, and another wing we have is human rights and anti-human trafficking wing. So this is to, I mean, empower the students on this human rights issues, and we encourage all the colleges to initiate human rights and anti-human trafficking clubs. So forming the club is one of the activity, and of course we give all the supports in this. And we have another benevolent fund to support the social workers in urgent needs. So we have done so a bit of activities. And recently, I put a request in your group also, and I understand you have collected a very good amount of money for supporting a person who met with an accident in Kozhikode. So thank you so much for that. That's a good gesture. Anyway, and of course, these are some of the activities going on. We normally, the district chapters have monthly meeting. We have governing body with the representatives from all the district chapters, and we have a state management committee with the president, secretary, treasurer of all district chapters. Yeah, so like that we have different organizational, I mean, levels also there. Things are going a bit fine, but not completely fine, since the people are reluctant. People, most of the people do not feel that we are in a profession. Since you have a regulatory authority and we don't have that, there is nobody to regulate the people. And developing in social work is not a mandatory thing in our state. So less people join. But what we are trying to do is to, I mean, educate the students and the youngsters about the seriousness of our profession. And of course, a lot of people join. And we have now nearly 800 members since 2012. This is a very good growth as far as other organizations or other associations in India are concerned. So this is what CAPS now stands. I know you are eagerly waiting for closing this meeting. So I don't want to go further. Thank you for this opportunity. And please, of course, we'll be so happy to have some kind.
Late Nelson Mandela, a former president of South Africa. One is not just a word or a concept or a philosophy. For me, it's a social work perspective that resonates with the interconnectedness of all the people and their environment. It highlights the need for global solidarity and utilizing indigenous knowledge and wisdom in bringing changes to society, which is the sole aim of social work. As ethnic minority social workers, we have a duty to connect with our community as well as with the wider community and to contribute. Hence, our forum is a humble beginning, an attempt to bring together all social work professionals from our community. As Henry Ford quoted earlier, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is the progress, but working together is a success. So we have a great vision, a vision inspired by our ethics and our values, our commitment to our society, a vision inspired by our dream for a better world, a better society, a better community, a better family, and a better me. Our mission is to make this happen. It's not easy. We have many challenges. Thus, working towards our dreams requires courage to continue until we succeed. Thus, working towards, as Winston Churchill famously quoted, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Thus, together we can achieve this. As you know, professionalism is the heart of what we do. Thus, our focus is on developing the forum to become one of the best professional forums in the UK. Inspired by our vision, the forum has initiated various activities at this end. The successful work of a resource team, which aims at supporting newly qualified social workers and offering them with the support to register with the professional bodies, guidance on seeking employment, interview support, and offering continuing professional development support to and peer mentoring support to existing social workers. The forum also initiated links with other organizations and educational institutions such as BASWA, CAPS, Brunel University, and local councils. Now it's time for us to broaden our links to undertake collaborative working to achieve our objectives. There are areas of work that we still need to do. As Robert Frost says, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promised to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. So let's work together for it. Now I'm getting into my responsibility. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Lord Laming, one of the most eminent personalities of contemporary social work in the UK. We are fortunate to have him today, even though in a busy schedule, he was with us. He showed keen interest in our community and answered our questions. So on behalf of the forum and all those who have participated today, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Lord Laming. Secondly, we had representatives from BASWA, Dr. David Jones, PhD, and Narendra Sidhu, who both explained the role of BASWA and how we can work together to improve our life, social work, especially the ethnic minority issues that we face during our practice. It is always good to keep our connections with the professionals at home as well. So connecting together and contributing and working towards improving the social work education and career in the UK. So we had Dr. Aif Workis, and many members from CASP also joined today. So I take this opportunity to thank both BASWA and CAPS for taking their time to join us today. Now, I would like to thank all those who joined today, including the members of the UKMSW Forum, as well as CAPS. And special thanks to the executive committee. And I'm not going to mention everyone's name in executive, except one person who took that extra mile, went that extra mile to bring Dr. Laming and liaise with the BASWA and all, Thomas Joseph. And because I don't want to mention everyone's name. So only except Thomas, I'm not mentioning anyone's name. So, but you've been wonderful. We worked as a team. We all worked as a team. And you took that time out of your busy schedule to contribute. I really value and honor. I can't ask for a better team to work. So I really appreciate the hard work you're putting together. But as I said, we have miles to go before we sleep. So we have to work together again. So once and all, I take this opportunity to thank you all for taking your time out and coming and joining today, which made this day a wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you who's joined and made this event a wonderful one. And like I said, we have the survey link posted by Roxy in our chat. Those who are able to access it, kindly access it and do give us your feedback. For those who are not able to access, we would be emailing the questionnaire. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for the wonderful team effort. You all made it happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Secretary. It'll be wonderful.
No.
Thank you.
You all, like I don't know how to, hats off. You've been wonderful, everyone. The work, the time, everything.
I just need one thing. I need the email address of everyone.
Yeah. We've got the email address. We forgot to mention that if people need the CPD, they need to contact us. So we'll be sending out a CPD certificate, participation certificate.
Sure.
So all the email addresses are here on the. Sorry?
No, I don't think we'll be accessing this anymore.
Yeah, chat box, once we leave, then we won't be able to access
We can include that as a footnote in the email.
One second. Okay. If you could Just looking at anything that we can we copy all the chat?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Oh, okay, that's good. Thank you. It will be easier. Then we can look at if anything needed. No, I don't think there was many important questions. But
I think we went really well. Very smoothly, yeah, without any hiccups.
Yeah, it was really nice actually. Very smooth, maybe even in a very professional, I must say.
And we are on time as well. That's the best thing. So we started on time and ended on time as well. We have got 2 more minutes to go. So that's good.
It's because we didn't have any question to caps. We
Done.
there. That's why.
Yeah.
Thomas Joseph, sir, you deserve a standing ovation.
Yeah. That's why I didn't. Initially, I thought I don't want to tell anybody's name.
I've done it, not me.
Yeah. Initially, I thought I don't want to tell anybody's name of the executive, but then I thought I can't miss one person. And I want to say Binu as well. But, you did very well. You done very well organizing it. The MC work. So you'll be like Roxy. You'll be the permanent MC. So yeah, Roxy, the permanent Zoom member, and Jibin, like a supporter of Roxy. So you'll be promoted when Roxy is not there. You'll be promoted to that role, Jibin.
You have been doing enormous work behind the screen, and everyone else actually. People have been working behind the screens. That's why it happens.
Yeah, but it's that's why I said it's a teamwork. So we've all done. Sibichan is coming back again. I think
great example of your teamwork. Yeah.
Where is Sibi Sebastian?
Thank you.
Has he left?
സിബിചേട്ടാ ഫുഡെല്ലാം കഴിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞോ?
സിബിചേട്ടന് ഇടയ്ക്ക് നമുക്ക് ഓൾറെഡി വിശന്നിരിക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരെ എന്തൊക്കെ സ്പൂണൊക്കെ എടുത്ത് ടേസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ.
സോറി, ഞാൻ ഇടയ്ക്ക് നിങ്ങളെ സോറി കേട്ടോ. കാരണം ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളോട് എല്ലാവരും അപ്പോളജി പറയുകയാണ്. എല്ലാരും ഉണ്ടോ നമ്മുടെ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ്? കാരണം ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ഒരു ഡീക്കന്റെ ഒരു കാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അന്നേരം ഫ്രൈഡേ സാറ്റർഡേ ഒരു ലീഡ്സി വെച്ചൊരു 2 ഡേ ഒരു ഇന്റൻസീവ് കോഴ്സ് ഉള്ളതാണ്. കാരണം അത് പക്ഷെ അവര് സൂമിലോട്ട് മാറ്റി വരെ ഞാൻ അറിഞ്ഞില്ല. ഇത് ഞാൻ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്തില്ല. ഞാൻ ഈ 3 വർഷം പഠിച്ചത് ഒരു കാര്യമില്ല. ഞാൻ അവരോട് ബെഗ് ചെയ്ത് എനിക്ക് 1 അവർ അവർ തന്നു. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് അതിന്റെ ഒരു ലഞ്ച്, അതിന്റെ ഒരു 10 മിനിറ്റ് ബ്രേക്ക് വന്നപ്പോ ഞാൻ അടുക്കളയിൽ ഒരു കാപ്പി കുടിക്കാൻ പോയതാണ്. സോറി കേട്ടോ. ഏതായാലും ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, എനിക്കത് ബാക്കി കാണാൻ പറ്റിയല്ലേ, നമുക്കത് ഉള്ളിൽ റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ലേ?
ഇപ്പൊ റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണേ.
ആണല്ലേ? എന്താണേലും സംഭവം